Welcome to Transformational Blueprints, the podcast that's here to tackle the big question. Why do so many transformation programs fall short, and what can we do about it? I'm Mario Michaels, founder and director of Synaxia Group, and I'm thrilled to have you join me. In this series, we go beyond theory, bringing you first-hand stories and insights from some of the world's top architecture and transformation leaders. It's all about sharing real-world lessons, sparking fresh ideas, and giving back to the architecture community. So whether you're looking to learn, be inspired, or stay ahead of the curve, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive in together. Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking to Simon Lessard about approaching enterprise architecture with a marketing ops mindset. Simon is a seasoned professional and passionate innovator. He climbed through the ranks via marketing operations, so I'm really excited to hear about that journey. Simon brings fresh perspectives and actionable insights to enterprise architecture. Currently playing the part of the strategic advisory team at Alithya, he helps CIOs and technology leaders establish and articulate priorities and timelines with an EA approach. Simon, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mario.
No problem at all. So we always start with, how did you get to? This is probably the essence of the conversation today, because it is an unusual route to enterprise architecture. So tell us how you got to where you are today.
Yes, so it is a journey indeed. I started my career early on as a Marketo admin. So Marketo is a marketing automation platform, and in a place where I had a lot of room to grow, and where I was called to really revamp from a technology perspective the instance of the thing. So it got me into aligning people, processes, just to scale operations. And with the help of this technology, I was mentored by senior consultant who helped me understand this. And then at this company, we had to rip and replace CRM, which has deep connections with marketing operations and marketing automation tools. And then it got me, like, this whole process got me into seeing like the intertwined web of technologies and the impact on people, on data, on everything from the marketing department. And then like I evolved a lot in there. And then I had a leadership role at other places, especially like always in the marketing operations function, revenue operations, and really redo that all over again a couple of times. And then where I was at Coveo at the time, the organization was in hyper growth phase. And then the leadership team, they created the CIO organization. And I was asked to help building this function really with the CIO and other senior leaders at this place. And this is how I got my way into more IT functions and IT perspectives. And really, I was the connective tissue. I was the person connecting IT, this new information systems function, with marketing, a well-oiled marketing team, right? And at the time, this organization were now responsible of CRM, web development, and like these enterprise platforms. So that were previously living under the departments and the teams. So it was a lot of change to absorb, a lot of change to streamline and to help people navigate this new roles and responsibilities, these new processes. How do we do things now in this new world? So really the role of the business partnership team, it was that, to support change. And this is how this business relationship team kind of evolved into enterprise architecture naturally, because in a SaaS, when you work in a SaaS company at really fast pace, really high growth, you have very dynamic portfolio of applications, because ultimately people can just go and buy their own trial. Ultimately they pay with their own credit card and expense it at the end of the month or at the end of the year. and then you have a spider web of technologies that you have no idea how it got into. And it's a process to rationalize this.
Yeah.
And that was our first real challenge from an enterprise perspective and enterprise architecture perspective. And yeah, the rest is history.
That's how you got into it. The rest is history. And for context, then, tell us a bit about your remit at Alithya and who Alithya are and what they do.
Yeah, so Alithya, it's mostly North American, but we have operations all over the world. We are a consultancy firm with about like 4,000 consultants, and yeah, we offer the widest range of IT services from help desk to strategic advisory. And as you mentioned, I'm part of the strategic advisory team at Alithya. So although we are partners with major software vendor, our team is technology agnostic. Therefore, so we play with within different use cases and contexts. And this is why I made the move from enterprise in-house to consultant. I really wanted to. I'm a curious person. I'm a continuous learner. And therefore, I wanted to see more and more use cases of enterprises of different sizes, public, private, and legacy technologies.
Now, in this series, we're doing something new whereby the guest from the previous episode asks a question to you, and you'll ask a question to the next guest. And the question we have from Rosangela, who was the Director of Enterprise Architecture at Cargill, is: what is the one thing that has made you happy being an architect in your career?
Absolutely. So when you're into enterprise architecture, oftentimes, so you start by trying to reuse whatever's in place. But when you have to create something new, I find my happiness when there's something new that the team creates, or when you're part of this team creating this something new, when it gets reused over and over again, and it starts to be part of the culture, and it brings more value than you were expecting when you designed new solution, new process, new governance, new whatever.
Okay, that's what makes you happy then, right? Okay, what do you think makes it a good or a great architect in today's world then, Simon?
Yes, I think what makes a great architect in today's environment is really to be teachable, to learn a lot, to listen a lot, to so in this fast-paced environment, like tech is easy, humans are complex, and then you need to develop those skills of being attentive to the world around you, to have empathy, because the people you are dealing with, the solutions that you're designing for teams, for people, for whatever, they have an impact. And you need to have empathy. And also, what makes a great architect, I think, like the pinnacle of all of this is when, as an architect, when you have had accountability in a business in the past, it makes you see your role from a different perspective. So if I take my personal experience, when I was part of the marketing operations teams, like ultimately, you have VPs of sales looking at their sales pipeline every minute or every day. And when there's something wrong in this funnel, in this pipeline, they have your direct phone number, right? Why don't I see those leads or whatever? And then you're accountable. You're part of this sales pipeline. You're accountable for part of the bottom line, the revenue of the company. And they're every month, every quarter, and you live through this beat. And when you translate that to your role as an enterprise architect, when you have to suggest optimization for a portfolio of applications because you see some duplicates or whatever, you need to have empathy to understand why those teams are using such and such technology and why it may be a duplicate in your categories of use cases on your map paper, but ultimately there's a fundamentally good business reasons why and totally valid business reasons why this duplicate exists, right?
And do you think you've developed that empathy for relationship building because of being sat in a different department? I'm not saying you have to sit in various departments to build empathy, by the way, by any stretch of imagination. But I suppose what I'm trying to get at is if you've been sat in marketing and you've been dealing with the sales director and, there's loads of pressure because you're not filling their leads pipeline, their sales pipeline with leads as a marketing ops person, you understand their challenges they're facing. So then when you move on to the technology side and the architecture side, you're able to go, right, this is what they're trying to achieve. Yes, they're pretty direct with it, but let me accommodate with this and this and this. And then that's how you're building effective relationships then to support organizational change rather than just technology change.
So yes, and your role in all of this when you're into this IT functions, and remember that the core of enterprise architecture is to streamline the delivery of strategic plans, right?
Yeah.
This is what you do as
absolutely.
EA. And in less traditional EA roles, part of your role is to help that team to get their strat plan executed.
Yeah.
And when you're into like high growth companies, teams are growing fast, org charts are unfolding every quarters. There are new leaders, new C-level orgs created, new processes. Humans tend to build more complexity.
Yeah.
When you're into this EA role or business relationship function,
Yeah.
your role is to help these teams navigate the new complexity.
Yeah.
And simplify processes, streamline operations for them so they can do, in this case, marketing, customer success, sales, whatever, instead of just trying to navigate the new org.
Okay. Yeah, okay. What other key lessons did you learn whilst working in marketing operations?
Tech is easy.
Tech is easy. You're going to get a lot of followers, listeners from me that completely press stop on this episode now.
Yeah, no, really, like tech is easy, and especially when you're dealing with modern technologies and like you always have a product that will help you, a tool that will help you do your job or to integrate, or nowadays you have platforms to integrate that are working magic and stuff. There's always challenges, don't get me wrong, but what's really where I got those challenges is when trying to push new tech, push new features. It's easy to just click that button, but the impact on people, the impact on people is like tremendous. And even though if you're in a company where everyone embraces change, because like the sales team, they do have like they want to be on calls. This is their job. This is what they want to do. They don't want to learn like why this field has changed in Salesforce, right? And why now they're being forced to do something that they haven't heard of before.
Okay. How did you incorporate EA practices effectively into the CIO organization that was then built for your previous company?
So in this kind of context of hyper growth companies where you mostly have like flat hierarchy or chart, and like people know each other, people collaborate a lot. If you need to bring value to the table, so people collaborate with you, okay?
Okay.
If you're and it's really similar to the security teams and all of
Yeah.
this. When security, architecture, IT, when they bring value to the table, when they help you or get your things go faster,
Mm-hmm.
people will collaborate with you. When
Okay.
you bring value and you're clear about the outcomes that you're bringing to the company,
Yeah.
and when you're able to articulate them, people will collaborate. Otherwise, you will just become another department
Yeah.
and no one will really know what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
ultimately, you'll be obsolete.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Your previous business career went through an IPO in 2021. What were the biggest challenges you faced and going through that IPO, and how did you address them?
Yeah. So again, you have to picture yourself into, like, you can imagine Silicon Valley, super high growth
Yeah.
tech company where and at the time it was in back before pandemic
Yeah.
and going to 2020, where the market really valued growth. Okay.
Yeah.
And up until the end of 2021, business decisions were made on growth
Yeah.
perspectives. That means investing in tools, application portfolio, whatever could help streamline growth.
Yeah.
And we went from that mode to a mode where we needed to have a certain form of discipline,
Yeah.
or at least control on the knobs of spending and investments in technologies.
Yeah.
So that was one challenge, and the challenge was cultural, because people were used to just buy tech with their
Yeah.
credit card,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you cannot just come up to them and say, now these days are over. You
Yeah.
can not do this anymore. I'm
That
shutting.
creates a negative impact, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exact. So we needed to come up with a multi-factors approach. The first one was ownership. So
Yeah.
people were buying tech and no was owner, and therefore, like, the default owner was IT, and then
Yeah.
IT didn't have the capacity.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it
No
was not unique
accountability
scenario,
for
right?
spend. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then so we started to foster ownership, having clear matrix of role and responsibility, and categorizing applications like this, like Salesforce is enterprise app, so these teams are owner, and blah, 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 and here are the roles of IT, and the roles of business users and such. And then at some point we had a conversation with people saying, hey, like, this application, your team is using it.
Yeah.
We can The IT team can help, but we cannot own it. We cannot negotiate. We cannot make business decisions for renewals and all of
Yeah.
these stuff. So we need your help. So
Yeah.
that was the collaboration that we got. And from there, just asking people to be owner of their things
Yeah.
and proposing alternatives if they didn't want to be owner of
Yeah.
this application. At the IT level, we had similar apps that we can manage on your behalf.
Yeah.
Therefore, people were letting go of the fat. They trimmed the
Yeah.
fat, right?
Okay.
So that was one thing. Also, showing costs. People don't know what they don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they didn't know the cost of a specific application that they were using, while we had a duplicate, whatever. So
Yeah.
just bringing visibility to cost to senior
Yeah.
leadership, it was another facilitator to that conversation. And then
Okay.
ultimately we went from a portfolio that was at about like over 500 logos to something around like 2000 to 200 logos,
Okay.
right? And then a cultural shift happened when we had architecture principles, and those were super simple, like, things like, we want SSO on everything, and before buying, you'll have someone, when you request software, you'll have someone contacting you
Yeah.
to suggest another app. And
Which
people
we
were
already
used to
paid
it.
for. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And again, people don't know what they don't know. Sometimes, like, a new person arrive at the company and they ask for new software, when the rest of the, like for project management app, and then you know what, the rest of the company is using another one. So just having this conversation, it was natural for everyone, and yeah, it was a cultural that was one of the biggest challenge.
So you built a CIO organization in 2019 to prepare for the demands of an IPO. Define what that CIO organization looked like within Coveo at the time that you built.
So just to be clear, I was not in the CIO role, right?
No. I
was part of the team.
The CIO essentially.
So really, if you look at it at a macro level, we had two functions within the CIO role. The first one was three functions, if you will. IT, so pure IT, like help desk, sysadmin, IT.
Internal, like looking after all the internal systems.
Like access management and all this.
Yeah.
We had information systems, so the owner of enterprise platforms, things ERP, CRM, ITSM. Exactly. And then in kind of in the middle, it was business relationship. So that was the initial design. We played with we evolved as the company evolved, but that kind of really stayed similar for a couple of years. Yes.
Okay.
And that allowed the team. So in preparation for IPO, this whole team had to support like changes of ERPs and ITSMs and such. So just to be able to deliver massive projects like that within like at lightning speed. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So the pandemic forced a shift from event-driven marketing, i.e. going to events, going to conferences and so on, to digital events. How did this impact your architectural approach to what you were doing?
Yeah, so at the time when the pandemic hit, like I was into the CIO org, and my role was to support the shift of the marketing. So the marketing leadership, they had to shift literally from in-person to digital, and that meant buying new tech and rewiring some of the existing technologies. So again, as I mentioned before, my role was not to the marketing team over there and the modern marketing team, they do have this technical expertise within their team. They don't rely on IT and for velocity and a lot of good reasons. And that was similar at Coveo. Like the team was super competent. So when I saw that, what I had to bring to the table was, how can I help this team to go faster? Mm-hmm. How can I remove roadblocks? Because we just created this CIO and procurement function and such. How can I help this team navigate this internal complexity that was growing, and collaborating with IT? So it was a lot of relationship and just communicating and articulating to technical teams that ultimately making this project go faster will help revenue, or just like putting new events online and such.
Okay.
So I think like what I remember about the first 6 months of the pandemic, it was me on calls internally, just articulating the value of this new tech to help and to support this marketing team.
Okay. What were the key lessons you took away from going through or navigating through an IPO process as part of, the CIO organization that you were, or the office of the CIO as we've called it?
Okay, so when you're into, and this is a good segue with non-traditional EA functions, right?
Yes.
And back to what we mentioned before, where in these kind of business, people don't have to go through enterprise architecture necessarily, right? And especially when you're starting this function, when you're building this new practice, it's not like in the banking or whatever in public sector where an IT project starts at the top, goes through enterprise architecture, then it waterfalls down. So really what I learned is how to lead with influence to drive change. This was my biggest learning, and I learned a lot from it. I was mentored and coached internally by fabulous senior leaders who took time with me. And no, exact, and that was part of my growth. Yeah.
Okay, so we've touched on flatter organizational structures or non-traditional businesses. So in financial services, banking, government, there is always a huge enterprise architecture team. Businesses that have got 5,000 plus employees tend to have a huge EA team. Conveyor wasn't that. It was a fast-growing, high-growth SaaS platform or SaaS business that arguably to most people wouldn't need enterprise architecture. But here you are promoting the value EA can bring in an organization that probably didn't have as much hierarchy, didn't have as many layers, it was a lot smaller, it was selling a product. So how did you promote the value of EA in that organization? Let's call it a non-traditional organization.
Absolutely. I think this is right to call it non-traditional for EA practices, right? And so you need to have an outcomes first approach. So you need to promote the value you bring to the table. You need to promote like this, we're doing A because the outcome will be B. And it's not for us, it's for such and such benefits. And so this is the first thing. The second one is to do just enough architecture just in time, because the pace is first, the pace is faster. Second, it's not people's job to understand architecture, right? So you're there to support people. So you need to communicate in their language. So if you show Archimate diagrams to meetings where you have no architects in the place, well, you're the only one understanding what's on your slide. So you need to adjust and level set. So, but when it's relevant to have a specific EA diagram or whatever that supports the conversation and help understand the conversation, then again, this will be useful. This is just enough architecture, just in time to bring value. And I was really influenced by, so there's a former Salesforce executive, his name is Brett Kohlberg. And this person helped shape and develop the internal enterprise architecture practice at Salesforce. And they outsourced their framework that they call Eliminate. You can find Brett Kohlberg Eliminate on MediaMe, detailed all of this, and they put a lot of their material on. And their framework is super simple, and it's outcomes-based approach, where you can deliver an enterprise architecture assessment within a couple of weeks. Right, and this is super effective. But really, this approach puts the emphasis on design, understanding the revenue of the company, and from there you can detail where does the revenue come
from. Exactly. Fine.
Exactly.
So
really outcome-based approach, the value that you're bringing, the value that if you're able to articulate the value, ideally in dollars, a specific initiative.
Talk to anyone. Everyone understands the currency of money, don't they? So and as we alluded to right at the beginning, your career growth into EA is super unique. but has given you a slight edge in some respects. So how does having employees from diverse backgrounds such as sales engineering, whatever it may be, marketing or operations, enhance your EA team?
Yes. So when we started this enterprise architecture practice, I was the architect and leader, and I had to build a team, and I had to go through hiring, and I got into a lot of conversations, really interesting conversations, but mostly at the start, it was mostly with people with traditional EA backgrounds, and although they had a lot of great skills, a lot to bring to the table, the cultural fit and what I was looking for was not quite there. And at some point we stopped spinning around and we started to look into more diverse backgrounds. And the one profile that I was really going after, it was the sales engineering background, as you mentioned, for a couple of reasons. First one, so the sales-ish profile.
Yep.
So when you think about the salespeople, first they listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can have in mind that they talk, but they mostly listen.
Yeah.
They listen to provide value, and within this role, they listen to internal customers to understand, and it goes with empathy and all of that. And the engineering. So a sales engineer, really what they do, they are being presented a prospect that has a need, that has challenge in their business that they need to solve, and they have a quick window of time to, let's say in the SaaS business, the sales engineers, they have a quick window of time to build an instance that is good enough for demoing, that is personalized enough for the prospects, that will support the conversation, and that will not crash. Right? Ideally.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you take this profile and you apply it internally, you'll have someone who will value quick proof of concept, quick drafts and bad drafts over perfection and overthinking and all of this. You'll have someone who has a lot of like human skills.
Yeah.
Like being around the role. Like one thing that I wanted the most out of my team is that they hang out with other folks than IT.
Yeah.
Going out at the coffee machine, going out with the with the sales team, with the customer success team, with the R&D team. So they're infused with the people.
And also the knowledge of the business as well, because naturally, if you go to, for a drink with somebody from a different team, they're going to tell you what's going on in their world, what their challenges are, and what's going on, and then okay, great, I can work with that. Yeah, I've got an idea, and then you're helping, and as you say, you're that true IT business partner.
Exact, and some of our within our CIO org, some of the teams, like I remember that part of the Salesforce developers teams, at some point they had their day in the life of, so they were to go and sit with the customer success team and say, oh, you're using the platform like this, like that. Okay. So then, like, cross-pollination of ideas and can bring the back to the office conversation, but the technology has not replaced osmosis of information and all of this.
Okay. Are you able to share specific examples of a problem that you solved using enterprise architecture in a non-traditional industry? For example, Conveyor. Or if you're doing anything with Alithya, don't obviously say the company name, but is there any sort of specific examples you can give?
Okay, so obviously with modern portfolio of applications, you do have a lot of entry points, right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of SaaS and such. And at some point, when you want to reinforce security, you have a couple of measures that you can take. And ultimately, this has a cost. Okay, so for example, if you have 200 softwares that don't have SSO, 200 applications where you don't have SSO, and you need to just like upgrade the plans, this will have an impact on specific department's budget. Okay, and you cannot come to a department like a senior leader and say, hey, you know what? Because we decided to reinforce security, your software budget, you will need to allocate a couple of $100,000s more a year because we decided to. It doesn't work like that, because you're the customer success or sales leader. They will say, you know what, I need that budget to sell. Okay. And unfortunately, you cannot just shut my app down because, well, I won't be able to say. So this is the kind of conversation that you need to not get into. So the rationale needs to apply, and you need to prioritize, and you need to have a roadmap. You need to show the costs, show the impact, have options. So these are all enterprise architecture kind of mindsets. And this is where we use, let's say, in the TOGAF framework, the architecture principles. And so we used a mix of all of this to support the conversation, to support this specific need to up level the security across the company. And then new applications coming in. We had the conversation from the get-go about SSO, about more plans, and we negotiated budgeting and all of these things. But the foundation of this was architecture principles. And supported by conversation, light processes. We didn't had like the board of architecture was small. Oftentimes we're able to deal with it in a Slack channel, and that was sufficient. For more complicated use cases, we had to bring this back to higher instances, but we had a light process. So really, you see, you take an enterprise architecture, like super dry tool, and you apply it to the culture of where you are. And you bring value with it.
Okay. I'm going to move on to our quick fire questions. You don't have to answer them quickly, by the way. So what do you expect in 2025 will be the game changer from a technology perspective?
So the past 2 years have been Gen AI, of course, and we're entering into the agentic AI with the all like agent force, all the agents, agents everywhere. But I think the biggest shift that will happen will not necessarily be in the tech itself, but in the mindset of businesses using or starting to develop their usage of Gen AI and agentic and whatever. I explain myself. Like something that we're seeing a lot is businesses trying to figure out how to replace 100% of a problem with AI. Okay, and it's the same approach as trying to be perfect on your first shot. It's problematic, and it's just blocking everywhere. So I think this year will be a shift in mindset of teams trying to solve 50% of the problem with AI. And then this is something that snowballs, right? Because you're solving, you're learning, your peers are seeing what you're doing, they're trying to apply, you're trying some use cases, you'll learn out of it. And I think this is the year where we'll get more adoption, because what we're seeing on the market right now is that a couple of enterprises, they get a lot of value out of AI, and it has been that for years. And some companies are just struggling finding the value at small scale first.
Okay, that makes sense. it's like anything, isn't it? It's people, process, technology, and there's a lot of focus on the technology being Gen AI, being AI and automation at the moment, but not necessarily the people and how they adopt it and the processes that they implement it to adopt it, like anything. Any advice you wish you received early on in your career?
I wish I received more, let's say, a more of a guided approach of how mentorship and career development worked.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I had to figure it out, and that's great. But I was fortunate enough to have a lot of great leaders surrounding me, people who offered to mentor me that made a world of difference.
Yeah.
But I wish I knew about this earlier on.
Okay, fair enough. What's the biggest change you expect to see over the next 5 years from a talent perspective, bearing in mind you've grown enterprise architecture teams and hired, and you've seen a few challenges there?
Yeah, so the time span of 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably how long it takes for a true sort of market to shift, I suppose, talent-wise anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it started, but it will accelerate with, so in context of these AI tools enabling, like people using ChatGPT in the workplace today, there are a lot of them. Like they start to get rid of the task that they don't like, and just providing it to the machine, and therefore it leaves all the repetitive tasks and like all the boring work to the machine, and that's fantastic. So now, as a person in the workplace, developing more human-centric not necessarily capabilities, but qualities, human-centric qualities and soft skills, this will be key. And the shift happening from the employer perspective is that what I see, and we're starting to see that, is that employers will start looking at a set of skills instead of a set of yes, but a set of like specific hard skills or education and what's up. Like, and you see that a lot in the developers area. Like, hey, you're a dev, you want to work at Google, like what you have done prior, what's your personal project, and like how you developed yourself, how you learn. And how fast can you learn? Do you know how to learn? Like these kind of things. So at some point, when I was a hiring manager, I was preferring someone who know how to face new situations and challenges that they didn't face before, but because they know how to learn, they know how to adapt, instead of someone who's super like an expert in this one particular thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we're seeing a massive increase in skills-based hiring, and it is that softer skills, emotional intelligence, self-growth, growth mindset, the ability to adapt, to learn, to then execute consistently. All these things are all now being part of that interview process, rather than just, what's your experience around application design, or what's your experience around capability modeling, and so on and so forth. Okay, you answered a question from Rosangela right at the beginning. What's your question for our next guest?
Yes, so it's related to what I wished I had prior, so early on in my career as advice. So my question is, which professional relationship or mentorship experience in your career most contributed to your career, and why?
Perfect. Well, I could talk about this all day, Simon, but sadly we've run out of time. Thank you so much for an excellent podcast episode. It's been really interesting and great chatting with you in detail around sort of approaching enterprise architecture with a marketing ops mindset. So once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for appearing on the podcast, and I look forward to continuing our relationship.
Thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Transformational Blueprints. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found plenty of insights and takeaways to fuel your journey. If you enjoyed the episode, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could share it, leave a review, or give us a like. It helps us reach more people in the industry who can benefit from these conversations. Don't forget to follow Synaxia Group on LinkedIn to stay updated on new episodes. The links are in the show notes. Join us next time for more tips, strategies, and stories from some of the brightest minds in technology and transformation. Until then, take care and keep transforming.